Hey everybody, it's Michelle. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is the page that you can go to help support our podcast with a monthly donation. When you commit to supporting us, you can get additional bonus content such as extra podcasts, our favorite playlists, our show notes, and eventually we would like to have merchandise to sell like t-shirts and baseball caps, and we would let you have first dibs at those. Of course, because we are coffee moms, we are offering membership levels that are as follows: the coffee membership, the cold brew membership, or the espresso membership. Now, no pressure whatsoever, but if you do love our podcast and you would like to help support it, you can go to patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. That is Patreon, patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. There you can choose a membership level that works for you. Melissa and I want to thank you in advance for your love and your support.
Messy Bun Mamas. I'm Joe. I'm John. I am Malcolm.
Hello. Welcome to episode 15.
Hey everybody, it's 15. I failed last week, so
her gusto is just not up there.
I'm gonna be honest. I was still feeling a little salty that when I tried to stop by Starbucks, there was too many cars for me to stop and get coffee. So.
And she's gonna sit here and watch me drink Starbucks.
But yay! It's episode number 15, May.
Yeah, May.
Yeah,
we're in May. Yeah, we're definitely into May. If you have not joined us before, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Michelle.
And this is the Messy Bun Mamas podcast. Today, for episode 15, we're going to be talking about what's for dinner, feeding a house of picky humans. I'm very excited to talk about this.
Me too.
But before we get to that, let's go through our mama moments of the week. Yay. Michelle?
So, my mama moment of the week totally makes up for last week with the whole poop thing. So on Sunday, I debated. Joe woke up super late on Sunday morning, and I was like, oh, by the time I get him moving and get going, we're gonna get to church late, blah blah blah. I'm not in the mood. And so
I hate showing up to places late. I'd rather not go at all.
And so I'm just like, and I really hate getting him to Sunday school late because they do worship in the dark, and he is not about walking into a dark room. So
I mean, that's fair.
It's a struggle. And so I kept debating back and forth, and I'm like, because we really need to go. I need to be consistent. Blah blah blah. I love worship. Weighing all my pros and cons. But out loud, I said, we were all sitting on our bed, and I said, I'm a really bad person. Because I thought I shouldn't be debating this. I should just get us up and go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a really bad person. And well, Dan, he's not a terrible husband. He was just kidding. He says, without thinking, without a thought.
Yeah, you are.
No spare thoughts. Yep. He said, yep, you are.
I would do that too. That's my personality.
And so Joe, who was in between us and had been playing, stops suddenly. And he looks at me with concern on his face. And I said, it's all right, Bubby. Daddy's just kidding. And he says, but Daddy said you're a bad person. You're not a bad person, Mom. You're a good person. And I said,
oh my heart.
I said, you're right, Joe. I am a good person. Daddy was just kidding. He was just teasing Mommy. And so that's not the end of the story. Joe would not let this go. Like Monday, he mentioned to me while Dan was at work, Daddy said you were a bad person, Mom. And again, I'm like, he was just kidding, Joe. No big deal. Wednesday night, because he said it Tuesday, and then Wednesday night we were cuddled up for his bedtime. And he said to me, Mommy, Daddy said you're a bad person, but you're a good person. And I said, yes, I am, Joe. I am a good person. He said, Daddy says you're a bad person. You need to tell him, you need to say, now I can't think of it. You need to say you're a good person. That's how he said.
Oh, he made you say it out loud.
He said, you need to say you're a good person. And I said, okay, not thinking. I'm thinking he's telling me I need to tell Dan, you're a good person. And so I said, okay, when I see Daddy, I'll tell Daddy that he's a good person. Mommy's a good person. Daddy's a good person. Joe's a good person. And he said, no, Daddy said you're a bad person. You need to tell him you're a good person. And again, because I'm slow, I'm like, got it, Joe. I'm going to tell Daddy he's a good person. And he says, no, Mommy, you're a good person. You tell Daddy you're a good person. And so I'm like, oh, I get it. My heart was like so full when I realized that my son was
defending you.
Not just defending me, but telling me to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. So that night when Dan came home, I'm like, hey, do you remember when you said this? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, hey, your son's not let this go. I just want you to know it's probably going to be a topic of conversation. Sure enough, the next day we're sitting there eating lunch and he's playing and eating. And all of a sudden he stops and he says, Mommy, Daddy said you're a bad person, but you're a good person. You tell him you're a good person. So I looked at Dan and I smiled and I said, I'm a good person, Daddy. And Dan, bless his heart, yes, you are. You're a good person. And he says, and he even followed up with, Mommy's probably the best out of all of us. So I was just like you said, for last week's moment with Malcolm and Rayla, where I thought, high five me. I'm doing something right.
Yeah,
out of all this craziness, my son not only wants to defend me, but he's pushing me
to stand up for yourself.
Yes. And so I was just like, I'm
doing something right.
Doing something right. My glimmer of hope in a dark, dark world of raising a toddler. So
that's so great though, because like I'm sure you enforce that with him where you're just like, no, like you need to know that blah blah blah. So that's good that he reversed that on you.
We actually, when we go for play dates, I do a whole moment of, okay, Joe, are you a kind person? And he has to repeat back to me, I am a kind person. And I'll say, are you a smart person? I am a smart person. Are you beautiful inside and out? I am beautiful inside and out.
Aww.
And so I'm hoping that that's where that comes from, but I do it just so that he hopefully remembers that he shouldn't body slam people he doesn't know. So
that's a tall order.
But it's just, I don't know. It was just I think my proudest moment as a mom. So
that's good.
Because it goes back to even like that defending the girl thing, you know.
Yeah.
So how about your mama moment?
Okay, so my mama moment is, I don't know if you remember this, but a few weeks ago, I was going for my consult to get my tubes tied.
Yes, I kept meaning to ask you about this.
So I go to the OBGYN, and I'm sitting in the waiting room or whatever, and I had to fill out some paperwork, whatever. And I'm like sitting there waiting. They call my name, and I walk up to the nurse, and I have to, go get your weight, go blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So on the way to the weigh station is a hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the hallway are bulletin boards filled with pictures of babies. Okay. So I go weigh myself. And then we have to walk to the room. So we walk down 2 hallways that are filled with bulletin boards filled with pictures of babies.
Oh my gosh.
I then am sat in a room where you take my blood pressure, all that stuff. And there are 2 giant bulletin boards full of pictures of babies. And I'm just like, is this how you get people to like
retain your services?
So like I'm basically, because like I don't know, I wasn't 100% sold. Like I was going there like for a consult or whatever, or like, you know, to just kind of weigh my options and see whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she took my blood pressure. I've never had high blood pressure outside of like preeclampsia in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And my blood pressure was like skyrocketed. She's like, do you normally have high blood pressure? I'm like, no.
Right.
She's like, oh, are you upset? I'm just like, I don't know. The hallway of infants is kind of depressing.
Right.
And she like looked at me and I was just like, is this how you like, I actually said, I'm just like, is this how you like convince people to get their tubes tied? Because I'm not feeling the love right now.
Right.
I don't know. But they're so the babies. And I'm not a big like baby person.
Right.
Like I love my kids or whatever. I don't really like other people's babies. Like that's just not.
You don't rush over.
No, and somebody's like, "Oh, look at the
snatch
babies! Look at the
from...
squishy baby!" I'm just like, I mean, they look like a potato. They all look the same, whatever. So I'm just like sitting there, and they're like asking me all these questions, and I'm just like, and they won't call it tube side; they call it sterilization. And I keep telling the doctor,
worse.
I'm just like, you are not selling this to me at all. And she's just like, well, if you're not 100% sure, we shouldn't do it. And I'm like, well, if the baby pictures and the use of the word sterilization 14 times is supposed to test my resolve, well, guess what, guys? Melissa didn't get her tubes tied. We left there with reliable birth control, hopefully.
Right.
I was just like, this is horrible. Like,
right.
I don't know how anybody would leave this office with like, and I told him, because like the doctor sat down and she starts talking, and like they had all the stuff laid out for, the sheet and everything, and all you ladies know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I was just like, why is all this stuff here? They're just like, oh, well, we just need to do, a physical before we schedule the surgery. And I was just like, listen, guys, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
We're talking right now.
I want to have a conversation. I didn't realize, like, I guess I told her, I told the doctor when she came in, I was like, I guess I just kind of thought that we could have a conversation. I didn't realize I was supposed to pre-do all my research.
Right.
On WebMD, and then come here and tell you, like, my research presented to me that I should do this.
Because you yell at me when I do that.
Right?
Right.
But then I tell you, like, I want a consult on getting my tubes tied, and you take that to mean that
turns into
like,
surgery prep.
That's what it was. It was like, they were just like, okay, what surgery day do you want? I'm just like, whoa.
Right. Pump the brakes.
I kind of like my fallopian tubes as they are right this second. Right. We need to calm down a little bit.
Right.
So my mama moment is that I'm not ready to give it up yet. But I blame them, okay? Because I was all right, like maybe getting my tubes tied. But the whole way of baby, like I even took a picture, okay? And I sent it to my friend, and I was just like, if this is how they think, like of the room that I was sitting in, waiting for the doctor to come in, like behind me and in front of me, there are just billboards of baby pictures. I'm just like, if this is like what they think is going to convince people to get their tubes tied.
Right.
Because I feel like every parent has that, like, inkling of just, like, oh.
Another one. Right. Well, not my husband, but...
But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, like, to sit in a room full of baby pictures, it's just like, this is not...
I want another squishy. Yeah.
Like, I want you forget all the bad things.
Dan tries to remind me. He's like, remember all the sleepless nights? I'm like, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, at the very least, my mom wanted us to catch you guys up how my appointment went because it was a joke. It was ridiculous.
That's pretty funny. It is like the opposite. They should have like separate hallways and separate rooms. Like,
well, I was really shocked. I just couldn't believe it, and I was just like, I mean, you know me. I say whatever comes to my mind. I have no manners,
right?
And I'm just like, this is not how you should parade somebody around, like
right.
if they're considering getting their tubes tied,
right?
Like this would convince somebody who like 100% is certain that like maybe there's that inkling, like maybe,
right?
And like I said, I'm not even a baby person. Like I don't look at a picture of a baby and my ovaries melt.
It's like they have it set up to keep themselves in business almost.
Maybe. I don't know. And then when they were calling it sterilization, I was just like, I don't like this.
I get it that they have their doctor terms because I have that problem with them calling miscarriages abortion too. So,
yeah.
I get it. They have to have their standard words and everything, but I'm like, you have to use.
I don't want to be sterilized.
Cold words. That's what I like to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a cold word.
Like, I think that in itself probably would have put me off, like the sterilization.
Yep.
So,
like you're complete. Like it couldn't be reversed. It's.
Oh yeah, no, for sure it couldn't because I don't know if it was just this doctor, but like she completely removes the fallopian tubes.
Oh.
Apparently that's like standard practice now. Like they don't cut them and burn them anymore. Now they completely remove the fallopian tubes because it reduces the chance of
other
cancer later in life. And I'm just like,
so it is like a sterilization.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, now you got my hard no.
Right? I was like, I thought we were like doing a snip and a burn and like,
right.
And she's like, well, I mean, I'm like, I'm just surprised because I haven't heard of this. She's like, well, usually the male in the relationship is willing to get a vasectomy. And I'm just like, false. I know lots of men that won't.
Right.
So thank you for like low key talking smack about my husband to my face. New doctor that I've never met before.
Right.
But again, this is a consult. So I left there with a trusty old IUD.
Right.
A non-hormone based IUD. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
But I could not believe it. It wasn't and the thing is like my doctor, I think I've talked about her before. I've had her since I was like 11. She's my mom's doctor. You know, she's got a very eccentric personality. Like, she's all over the place. I love her. Okay. And she would have told me, like, if it was non-COVID time, I probably would have went in and I would have been like, I need you to talk this out with me. And she would have been like, I mean, she would have prepared me.
Yes.
They're going to call it sterilization. What that means is blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I wouldn't have been as like shell-shocked going into this OBGYN from them using that word.
Right.
Because, I mean, I don't know if it was you or one of my other friends was telling me that when they had a miscarriage, that, you know, when they had to go pick up medication, they're like, they're going to call it an abortion. Like, don't let it, you know, that's the language that the medical language that they use.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't let that affect you, you know, just to warn you, though, this is the language that they're going to use. So I feel like my doctor would have done that had I, like, you know, went in, but like, I don't like going to the doctor and it's COVID, so I don't have to. So,
right.
So yeah, that's my mom moment for the week. Take out of it what you will.
Oh, I don't know. Still gives me kind of hope.
Smushy babies, though.
My husband's like, you're gonna be 45. I won't lie. There are days like where I'm exhausted because like Joe's in a chatterbox mode. Yeah. I'm like, oh, dude, I don't talk this much and your dad doesn't talk this much. So
I don't know what's going on with you.
right. And like I'll engage with him, but like constant talking all day, I can't do. I am an introvert. I'm an Enneagram 4. I need time to myself.
Stop talking.
So, I mean, there are days where I'm tired, but I've definitely said to Dan, I'm like, we need a number 2. I feel like I need a do-over anyway, because I feel more confident as a mom now. So.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, my momming with Rayla and my momming with John are, like, drastically different. Which is why Rayla likes me so much more than John. For sure. And part of that was just because, like, Mike had already been a parent.
Yeah.
So he'd already gone through it. So he didn't have a lot of and he's just, like, a chill person in general.
Right.
But he didn't have a lot of the, like, insecurities or whatever. He's like, the baby's not going to die.
Right.
You're fine. And me, I had, like, I think for the first 2, I for sure had undiagnosed postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's a lot easier after the first one to kind of, like, know what you're doing and, like, know that you don't need a wipe warmer. And, like,
or that when you feed your kid blueberries, their poop's going to come out black and they're not dying.
Right? Or that you don't need to peel a grape.
Right.
Despite what you are told, you do not need to peel grapes. Seriously, do you know how many grapes I peeled?
Oh my goodness. I can only imagine.
Yeah. So, all right. So we will get into our topic after this short break.
Hey everybody, it's Michelle. I am here to talk to you about our Patreon page. This is the page that you can go to help support our podcast with a monthly donation. When you commit to supporting us, you can get additional bonus content such as extra podcasts, our favorite playlists, our show notes, and eventually we would like to have merchandise to sell like t-shirts and baseball caps, and we would let you have first dibs at those. Of course, because we are coffee moms, we are offering membership levels that are as follows: the coffee membership, the cold brew membership, or the espresso membership. Now, no pressure whatsoever, but if you do love our podcast and you would like to help support it, you can go to patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. That is Patreon, patreon.com/messybunmamaspodcast. There you can choose a membership level that works for you. Melissa and I want to thank you in advance for your love and your support.
All right, so what's for dinner? Feeding a house of picky eaters.
Oh,
picky humans. So I'm gonna this is probably one of my hot button issues. So I'm gonna read some research I found, and we're gonna give no comments.
I'm zipping my lip.
I wrote some sassy comments on the papers, just so you all know. I'm not going to read them until I just want to get through them. Okay. So I'm not going to tell you the articles or whatever. Like, you can look at our show notes. I'm just going to read you the highlight points. Kids are naturally slow to accept new tastes and textures. Be alert to what toddlers say through their actions. A child who is building a tower of crackers or dropping carrots on the floor may be telling you that he or she is full. Allowing kids to skip a meal is a difficult concept because many of us were raised to clean our plates and not waste food, but kids should be allowed to respond to their own hunger cues, a vital sign when it comes to maintaining a healthy weight. That means eating when hungry and sometimes not eating, even if it's time for Thanksgiving dinner.
I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about.
I know. The number one reason that kids might not be eating could be medical. Although this may seem like the most obvious reason kids don't eat, it's often the most overlooked. For many picky eaters, sensory processing plays a big role in their refusal to eat foods. Simply put, if something feels gross in their mouths or on their hands, they aren't going to eat it. Don't feel guilty about choices you've made in desperate situations to get your child to eat. Once you have a routine solid, you can use some of my favorite, the author's favorite, not my favorite, picky eating tips that can really help your child try a new food for the first time. I love to use dips, even if you think your child hates them. I show you how to use them. Fun tools like toothpicks and a special cutter that cuts food into shapes. Plus, there are a lot of novel ideas like making food fun. Don't worry, I'm not talking about elaborate food scenes that you spend an hour cutting out, just basic things that spend about half hour to 45 minutes. My favorite tip that can make a huge difference is cooking with your kids. Now, I know every parent's thinking, not my kid, but hear me out. I show you how and tell you why it's important and give you these recipe designs for picky eaters. I'm going to tell you what these recipes are. Pumpkin waffles. Bruschetta bar.
Oh my gosh.
Carrot cake smoothies. Quiche. Not spicy homemade tacos. Banana sweet potato bread. I'm not done. A 2015 review of dozens of studies that date back to the 1990s that looked at kids' eating patterns found that fussy, picky, or choosy eating habits were linked to and affected by everything from personality traits to parental control at mealtime to social influences to maternal eating patterns. Or it just could be your kid, being a kid. Power struggles can teach kids the wrong messages about food. When a kid rejects a certain food and we put pressure on the kid to eat the food, it becomes a negative experience. It makes the treat more valuable than the vegetable. How many of us have been told our kids 2 more bites and you could have dessert? We give our kids the wrong vocabulary when it comes to food. Maybe they don't want to eat a food because they're cranky, they're not hungry, they had their heart set on something else for dinner, whatever the reason. But they say, I don't like it, so they don't have to eat it. We systematically teach our children that the only legal way to get out of eating a food is to say, I don't like it. All right. Okay, so I will say that we have 6 people in our house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And lots of times, I will say we try to at least eat dinner together. My daughter probably doesn't approve of the way we eat dinner together because we eat, like the kids eat at the table in the living room. And then like lots of times we'll eat on the couch or like whatever. We don't have like around the dining room table family dinner. That's just not us. It's never really been us. I don't know that it ever will be. Stylistically, that's just how we eat. I was raised in a house where the only vegetables that my brothers ate was canned corn. We weren't really allowed. We didn't have to eat what was made for dinner. If we didn't like what was made for dinner, my mom would make like peanut butter and jelly sandwich or bologna sandwich or hot dog or whatever. Like we had lots of options when it came down to stuff like that. My kids, John, all my kids when they were really little ate tons of different stuff. Like they ate lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, whatever. And like John got to a point where it was just like he didn't want to eat any of that stuff. He only wanted snacks. And then he went through a phase where he didn't want any of the food to be touching. And he didn't want to try anything that looked weird. He only wanted things that like looked normal. His quote unquote normal. So that's been a struggle. Malcolm, who will be 4, when this comes out, he'll be 4 next month. He pretty much will eat or try almost anything. He did go through a phase pretty heavily where he wouldn't eat anything sweet. And then Rayla, See, Malcolm and Rayla are just like, they've always been like big kids, so they pretty much eat anything you put in front of them. But it's really interesting because Malcolm and Rayla are my keto babies.
Mm-hmm.
So I got pregnant on keto.
Okay.
I don't know that has anything to do with it. I'm just giving you all my information.
Mm-hmm.
So their eating habits are just very different than John's.
Okay.
Because even to this day, like Rayla and Malcolm aren't huge bread eaters. John will eat garlic toast for dinner every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. Malcolm, he will try vegetables no matter what, no matter when, no matter how. John, it's like, he'll eat broccoli, but you need to cover it with like pounds of cheese.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Him and my husband would get along.
Yeah. So I will say that I'm not, wherever this conversation goes, I just want to be very clear about the fact that, like, this is not something that I've mastered by any stretch of the imagination. Right. Mike does most of the meal prep in our house.
Mm-hmm.
And like last night, he made, for the quote-unquote grown-ups, he made like cheesy mashed potatoes and pork chops.
Okay.
And then the kids got ravioli, a vegetable, and some garlic toast. That was their dinner. So we do sometimes make 2 dinners for the kids and for the adults because we don't want to eat fish sticks and French fries all of the time.
Right.
But usually for dinner especially, he does not make each kid a separate thing. He will make, like, if Malcolm doesn't want garlic toast, he won't make him garlic toast. But it's just kind of like, or if we're like, okay, these are the fruits that I have. Do you want an apple, an orange, or a banana?
Right.
We'll do that.
You're eating a fruit. Which one do you want?
Exactly. I mean, it's a little bit harder with vegetables. It's like if we make steamed vegetables or open a can of vegetables or whatever, you're getting that vegetable.
Right.
I mean, I'm not opening 3 different cans.
Right.
But we are not in the habit of making different meals for all of our kids. But like I said, we do make an adult meal and a kid's meal sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we won't, but sometimes we do. So tell me what it's like in your house.
So Joe was the same as John. Like when he was young, he ate everything. Like he would eat the tomatoes and the broccoli and the potatoes. And I mean, you put it in front of him, that kid ate it. Beans, rice. I mean, there was no questions asked. And then like all of a sudden it was like a switch flipped. And now he will like eat only very specific things. And I'm not going to lie. I, for a while, just like gave into it and gave into the pressure of making different meals. Because I'm like, the kid has to eat.
Yeah.
But his doctor even said to me, she's like, if he doesn't eat it, you put it away in the refrigerator. And when he's hungry, you'll put that plate back out in front of him. Eventually he's going to eat it. He's not going to let himself starve. Like, I don't know. He's kind of like me. Stubborn. I'm like, I would let myself starve to prove a point. And so I did give in, but it came down to me last year, COVID, of where we did not eat out at all. And all of our meals were made at home. And I'm like, I don't even do a special diet for myself. I don't mean diet as in like a crash course diet, but like eating different things from my family because they may not like it. And it's healthier for me because I have the hormonal imbalance too. And I should be eating a completely different lifestyle. But I don't do that because I'm like, I'm not making 2 meals. And then if I were to make Joe if I were to
whatever garbage he wants to
right,
eat.
if I were to apply this to all of us, I'd be making 3 literal different meals, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just too much. So we have COVID. I mean, a positive from COVID.
Hey. There have been a few.
What has 2020 done for you is that I did say to Dan, this is ridiculous. And like you said, when it comes to, because Dan is a second shift worker, so we do our big supper time meal for lunch where we sit together at the table. I'm a living room eater as well. Dan's like, no, we have to sit at the table. I'm like, whatever. Okay, we'll do it.
We watch TV while we eat too. You can all like
judge. I don't care.
Yes.
And so, but that meal, Joe has to eat it.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't eat it, he doesn't get a snack in between. I mean, I can bring that back out for you and make you another plate, but you're not going to get a bunch of snacks in between. You have to try it. And if we have broccoli on the plate and he's like, oh, I can't eat that, I guess you can't eat a popsicle when you're done either. So I'm totally all for like holding the reward over his head as well. And I don't even care if you eat all the broccoli or you take 5 bites of it. Mm-hmm. You need to eat it because broccoli's not terrible. And that's what I say to his dad too, because his dad's like, broccoli's terrible. It's not terrible.
Put some butter on there. Right. I don't know if you all know this, but butter is amazing. If I could eat butter off a stick and not feel completely horrible about myself,
like I might have a heart attack.
I would for sure do it. Like sometimes I'll make like Brussels sprouts and I'll put like all the butter on it, and someone will be like, "You're just eating Brussels sprouts?" I'm like, "Listen, there's like half a stick of butter on these Brussels sprouts."
Can I side note this? We're prepping our garden, and Dan said, what do you think about Brussels sprouts?
Says the man who won't eat broccoli?
Right. And I said to him, I hear it's really good with a lot of butter. And he laughs and he says, everything's good with butter. That's so true. Side note done. We just discussed butter on our vegetables. But yeah, it's that same thing. I mean, we even will add, like, we have a garlic Parmesan herb that we'll sprinkle on our stuff. I mean, you can make the stuff taste differently or better, and I get it. It is texture. That's why I don't like peas. I mean, if someone serves me peas, I will begrudgingly eat every last
it's canned peas you don't like, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And like I like the sugar snap peas. Yep. I'm more prone to eat those willingly versus canned peas. And I'm just like, ugh, I'm eating this just because you put it on my plate. I'm not into it. So I get that some of it's like texture stuff, but this is the good stuff. This is the stuff that's good for you. And I get it. Fruit tastes sweet and is yummier, but
yeah,
you have to eat vegetables.
Yeah. So mushrooms is a big one for me. It's always the go-to that everybody's like, I don't like mushrooms because of the texture, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't know. I think mushrooms are fantastic. I put them in everything. I can get down with the fact that canned mushrooms have a really weird texture.
Slimy, yep.
They are for sure slimy. But like, I put them in stuff and I chop them up. You can't see them. And like, Belinda will for sure, like, she'll either get upset that I put mushrooms in, or she'll get like salty and she's like, I'm not eating that. Or she'll pick them out, which I'm just like,
you're taking all that time to
not only that, but like, you're being a 7-year-old.
Right. My husband does too, though. He'll pick
but
them
the thing
out.
is like, so to me, like, I don't like onions. I don't like, because my mom, when I was younger, she used to make casserole and just chop up onions and throw the raw onions in the casserole. So as I'm eating the casserole, I'm like, mushy, mushy, mushy.
Crunch, crunch. Yeah.
Like, no.
Right.
Like, to me, that's gross. Like, you should have sauteed the onions, Mom.
Or throw them in while they, yeah.
But, so I can kind of understand the texture thing. Not really. I'm not a huge, because I like the taste of onions. I just don't want to be eating mushy food and then have this weird crunchy
The
like
two different, yeah.
Like that's weird. I don't like I said, mushrooms are the one where I feel like people are that's their go-to for the texture, and I'm just always like, cut them up, man. Like my kids, like I cook differently whether Belinda's eating dinner with us or not, but I mean, I'll take mushrooms, like big giant slabs of mushrooms, and they'll just be in our beef stroganoff, and they're just like, I don't like mushrooms. I'm just like, eat it,
Right.
like you're fine.
It's been sauteed in butter and with all this meat. It tastes like those two things,
Right? Garlic, butter. You're fine. Oh, poor me. I have to eat mushrooms that taste like butter and garlic.
Right.
And meat.
Right.
Like, no, instead they'll be like, well, I'd rather have this I don't know. I make this lemon cream chicken that has mushrooms in it, and it's like this creamy lemon sauce, and like
I want that recipe.
It's so good. I'm actually making it this weekend because I eat it over cauliflower rice.
Oh, nice.
And they eat it over like I'll make like chicken rice or even white rice or noodles. They've had noodles before too, and they're just like, Mary, it looks weird, and I'm just like, just taste it,
right?
Like, and we get to the point where we're like, if we put something in front of, if we determine that it's not a meal that's appropriate for them, like, okay, so last night Mike made a meal for the kids and made a meal for the adults. The reason that he did that is because we had a pack of 5 pork chops.
Mm-hmm.
There are 6 of us. 3 of us are adults.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he wanted 2 pork chops. I wanted 2 pork chops. Belinda gets 1 pork chop.
Right.
There are no more pork chops.
Right.
Okay, but we are very like, we need to use the meat that's in our freezer before we go and buy more sort of people.
Right.
So, that's why he was like, didn't even offer the pork chops to the kids. We make pork chops for the family all the time. And when I give them to the kids, I don't just give them the pork chop. I'll chop it up.
Right.
So they can eat it with a fork. And like, it's just meat to them.
Right.
And 95% of the time, they'll eat it. I am definitely a big person where it's like, this is what's for dinner. If you eat it and you don't like it, you don't have to finish it, but you're not getting anything else.
Right.
So,
how much do you not like that?
Exactly. I mean, do you know how many times I've been like, when I was younger, I hated ham.
Mm-hmm.
Hated it. Okay. Do you know how many houses I went to where they had ham, and I'm just like, well, this is getting like 4 pounds of mustard.
Right.
So it like gets rid of the ham taste, so I don't have to taste this. I mean, it's just
ditto that. I mean, fish. I can't stomach fish. And
yeah.
I'll tell you why. My mother scarred me.
Mom.
I love her, and we've discussed this, so she knows my angst with it. She would buy ground salmon and make salmon burgers.
Yeah.
Well, in this ground salmon would be the bone of the eye socket or something.
Ugh.
And so, like, the first few times, I'm like, there's something, like you said, there's something crunchy in here. There's not supposed to be something crunchy in my burger. And she's like, oh, it's probably just gristly, blah, blah, blah. Then one day I saw the little round. I'm like, what is that? And I think she said to me, that's why I call it the eye socket. She's like, I think it's just like the eye socket. It's just a little bit of bone that was, I'm like, so for whatever reason, my brain just applies it to all fish. Because I remember when I was little, I would sit and eat sardines out of the can with my dad.
Too.
But now you like start to crack open a can of sardines, and I'm like, nope, get away from me. That's disgusting.
Yep.
And so I'm totally there with like that texture type thing. But if I go to a house and someone says, I'm making fish.
I went through the same experience with stuffing one year. So stuffing, dressing, whatever we're calling
Mhm.
it. So Thanksgiving, I walk into the kitchen. I'm like 10 or 11 years old, and my dad's standing at the food processor, and he's
Oh
like
my God.
putting something in the food processor. I'm like, "What's that?" And he looks at me, "Nothing. Go away." And I was like, "No, but what is that?
You're about to feed it to me. I
What
want to
is
know.
that?" And he's like, "It's just the gizzards." I'm like, "What are gizzards exactly?" And he's like, "It's the organs from the turkey." I'm like, "And where are you putting that?" And he's like, "Melissa, I'm like, no. No.
I
No.
need to know.
Where are you putting that?" He's like, "I put it in the stuffing. That's what I do every year." Oh. You what?
I won't eat stuffing if I know it's in there.
That day forward, they made 2 different stuffings. I will not eat stuffing unless it is straight out of a box.
Right.
Unless I know that it is straight out of a box, because this is apparently a thing that I didn't know people were doing. Like, we went to Thanksgiving for the first time at my in-laws, and my father-in-law goes, "Just so you know, the gizzards are in the stuffing." And he, like, does it, like, and I'm just like, my husband, we weren't married at the time. I think we were engaged or dating, I don't know. And he was like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't have told her that."
Right.
Because, like, he said it as, like, a ooh thing, and I was just like,
right.
I can't, no.
Like, my dad will, like, sit there and eat from the neck bone thing, and I'm like,
no.
So, yeah, I get, like, the texture stuff, and there are things, like, stuffing to me, if somebody passes that up, that's not a huge thing, but, like, if someone puts a plate of fish in front of me, I'm like,
if it's a family style or a potluck, I feel like you have a lot more like
choices,
wiggle room,
right?
Where but if you go to somebody's house and they like make a plate for you, so like I've done a lot of like keto, and there are lots of times I would say if I'm on keto, 95% of the time if I go to somebody's house, I just tell them I'm not hungry or I'm not feeling well.
Right.
Like, I'm not trying to get them to bend over backwards and cater to
make
my
you a
eating.
special meal.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel like with my kids and me. It's like, listen, this is what I'm making. I'm not bending over backwards to make you a meal. So, I mean, sorry.
Right.
You will not starve. I promise. You'll eat eventually.
Right. Just like the doctor said, they won't let themselves starve. And so, yeah, I mean, that's basically what we've done is you have to try the vegetables, because if you don't get the dessert.
Yeah.
And you have to eat what we're eating. The only exception we do make is like if it's a spicy type meal.
Yeah.
Then it's like a peanut butter. He gets like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
But you make him try it though?
We have, but he will spit it out right away.
Yeah.
Which I don't get. That little blurb in there about what the mother eats while they're pregnant with him. I'm like, I ate so many tamales and chimichangas and everything else.
Listen, I'm pregnant. I can eat whatever I like. All my treat foods. You can just eat all of them for 9 months and be like, I'm sorry that I gained 40 pounds.
Right.
I'm pregnant.
And he does not like Mexican food. Yeah, and so I'm like, that's totally not a thing. So we have tried to get them to eat it, but for that particular type of food. But even still, like if we're making tacos and the seasoning we use, we know is a little spicier, he has to have a little bit of the meat.
Yeah.
And then he can have a whole lot of cheese
on
there. So, or even if if we do a deconstructed something,
yeah,
he has to try all of it.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely. So my knee-jerk reaction has always been not to give my kids spicy food, because like growing up, ketchup was spicy to my mom. Like she's not a spicy type of person. But over the years in dating Mike likes spicy food. So I've definitely eaten a lot more spicy things in my time as an adult than I did as a kid. And So my knee-jerk reaction with the kids was to never give them anything spicy. I'm like, no, it's spicy. It's going to hurt them. And he's like, or it'll just build up their tolerance for spicy food. So like now the kids, if they eat something spicy, they'll just be like, even little Rayla will be rocking around like breathing. It's like, okay, you need milk. Like, here, you're fine. But they'll still eat it. The point that I struggled with, I shouldn't say struggled with. There were a couple things that I was like, oh. But one of the things that I struggled with was making the tower of crackers means that they're not hungry. I was just like, I don't
Joe
agree with
plays
that.
the whole time.
My
he
kids
eats.
do too.
The whole time.
And like the whole don't play with your food thing, it's like, I mean, there are times where my kids, like, they want their crackers to be people and they want to eat off their heads and like, what? Pick your battles.
Joe will take his Jell-O because it's bouncy and fun and like separate it out into piles on the table and then like bounce his finger from pile to pile to pile. But eventually he eats it. I'm like, whatever. The
Right?
Table's washable.
But I agree. It's kind of like, I mean, do I really want to fight with you
Right.
about this?
Right.
Is that really something that I want to do?
Right.
Because I can assure you it's not. It's definitely not something I want to fight about.
Right. It's not something I want to make a big deal about because in the end you're going to eat it.
Yeah.
So my battle is I want you to eat the stuff that's good for you.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
how you eat it, I don't care.
Yep. It's true though. It's for sure true. So Mike is one of those people that he doesn't like wasting food.
Okay.
To the point where like it is the biggest deal in the whole world. He will not waste food. And his dad is the same way. Like I've seen his dad like yell at Mike's niece because like she didn't eat her food. And he's like, what are you doing? Rah, 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 rah. And I can definitely see both sides to this.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mike's side is we work to feed you.
Eat it.
You need to eat the food that you're provided because I'm not throwing it away. We worked for that food.
Right.
And the kids are like, well, I don't like it. I don't want to eat it. So like I can see both sides, but I mean I'm gonna kind of have to stand by my husband on this one where it's like we work to buy you food. I'm sorry if you don't love it.
Right.
But
you're going to have to eat it.
You're going to eat it.
Right. No, and I think that's where some of the things that I came down to last year, because of COVID, there weren't many options. Like once the shutdown happened, there were no chicken nuggets. There were no,
there was barely toilet paper, people.
I mean, like all of the kid foods were gone, right? And so it was like, dude, you're going to have to suck it up and you're going to have to eat this. I will say this, that Dan and I have become more creative about what we call things. So like if we're eating a piece of steak, Joe immediately, well, I'm not eating that. Dude, this is like better than hamburger. But we, like you said, we cut it up. And as soon as he protests, it's hamburger, buddy. Because really, I mean, it's from the same animal. So
it's true.
So
we do that too.
And so we've become a little more creative. And once we identify it with something that is his favorite, it's then allowable. Our big struggle still is just vegetables. And to be fair, even as an infant, when I started feeding him the baby foods and stuff, the green foods were never his favorite, like the broccoli and peas and stuff. I'm like,
well, and it's funny because like we started on green food when we started giving the kids baby food. We started on green food because that's what was popular. Right. That's the article that I read that advised me how to mother.
You should start them on vegetables. They say. Yep.
But Malcolm and Rayla were independent eaters a lot earlier than John was.
Okay.
So they pretty much started eating and feeding themselves before they were, I would say, around 6 months. So it was one of those things where it's like they kind of had to eat table food because they're not going to be able to feed themselves baby food.
Right.
So, there's the feeding method, baby-led weaning,
Mhm.
which we kind of ended up having to do. We didn't have a choice.
You just did it naturally.
Because both of the kids just wanted to be like, to this day, I can have ice cream. I think I've said this before, but I can have ice cream on my spoon, and they don't want me to feed it to them. They want to hold their own spoon.
Oh, God bless them.
I'm just like, all right, fine. Like, Rayla's been using a fork, I mean, probably for a year, and she was only 6 months old a year ago. And she's like, I'm telling you, third kid is the easiest. Because she'll be 2 in June, and so we're recording in March, but this will come out in May, and she'll be 2, and she's been sitting at the table by herself for like months. Months. And I'm just like, all right. I mean, I think John was in his high chair until he was like 4, but okay. It's just one of those things where it's like, it just comes with time, I feel like. And
it comes with time. And again, as we say every episode, it does boil down to like each individual kid too. Because my mom to this day, that's one of her favorite stories, is that from birth I was an eater. Like,
yeah,
they brought her the wrong baby when she was in the hospital, and she's like, this is not my baby. This baby is nursing calmly. So
yeah,
but they received some slack because we would be in public and they would give me a rind of watermelon, and I would just go at it. And they're like, you can't give that to a baby. And my dad's like, hey, we can't get her to eat the baby food. So
it's true.
So I think it does boil down to each individual kid, but there are eating habits, because we are the parents, that we do need to teach them.
Yeah.
I'm like, vegetables aren't fun. I get it.
Well, yeah, but as an adult, it's like, I would much rather have a cookie.
Right.
Than eat broccoli.
Right.
I mean, those people who are just like, I don't know, I would much rather have broccoli than I would a cookie. I'm just like, wow. Liar.
You've never had a cookie then.
Right? You've never had a real cookie. But, okay, so the recipes that they called out, like sweet potato waffles or pumpkin waffles and carrot cake, like, I'm telling you, I'm not making these things. I'm not making elaborate art scenes for my kids' lunch or dinner. That's not me. I'm not doing it. Like, we had an Elmo sandwich cutter. Okay, so you make the sandwich, you take Elmo, you cut him out. It's Elmo sandwich. Mike used it one time, and then he went, you're wasting half the sandwich.
Right.
And now they don't have to eat the crust.
Right.
And I'm like, well, they don't like the crust anyway. He's like, it's half of the sandwich. They need to eat their crust. All right. So that became a toy that went in the playroom, and they played with it with their play food.
Right.
Or with their Play-Doh.
Play-Doh, yeah.
Because we are not going to waste half of a piece of bread to make it into an Elmo sandwich and then encourage you that you don't have to eat crust.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not happening. So it's just funny to me because every parent is different and everybody's values are different. Because to me, one of the big things, I don't know if I've read it or not, but having realistic expectations of their serving size, I think, is a big one that we struggle with, because it's just like, I feel like always give them too much food.
We give them our portion sizes.
But I still think that they need to try the food.
Exactly.
And I don't know that I'm ever gonna, I don't think I'm gonna be okay with having to make, and maybe it's because we have so many people living in this house, but like, I'm not making 5 to 6 different meals. I'm not making 4 different meals. Like last night, like I said, the only reason that last night they got different food was because we only had 5 pork chops.
Right.
And Mike doesn't like giving them like a carb and a carb.
Right.
And a carb, because he wasn't like, their cheesy potatoes was not going to be their vegetable to go with their ravioli and their garlic bread. It just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Because he does not like giving them a carb with a carb with a carb.
Right.
So, I mean, there's times that, like, if we're eating tacos, like when I was growing up, we had tacos. We had like tacos and rice and whatever. And Mike's like, you get just a taco. And I'm just like, well, what about rice or whatever? He's like, well, I mean, they're getting enough carbs from the tortilla. And I was just like, whatever, skinny person.
Throw me my bread.
I'll beat you over the head with it. But no, he's just not that person. Like if we make Italian food, he wants me to make like a salad and a green vegetable side because green vegetables are paired nicely with Italian food. And I'm just like, do you know what goes on the side of Italian food? Garlic bread.
Now, I don't disagree with the garlic bread, but when Dan and I got married, that was actually like one of the things we would argue about because he would just wanted spaghetti.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can put green beans in. He's like, your vegetables are in your tomato sauce.
Good one. Good try.
So
I don't think that's the case, but good try.
So so that was like, it's funny that we're on opposite ends of the spectrum with that. But I mean, I would still put some cheesy garlic bread in with it as well. Give me my carbs.
So I mean, I guess we're kind of both on the same wavelength. There's definitely always exceptions to the rule. I mean, it's
Right.
not like I'm saying that there's not, but Mike and I will never, if we don't like what the other person has made, we won't eat something else in front of the kids.
Right.
He'll wait till the kids go to sleep and then he'll eat a bowl of cereal or something, which is fine. I mean,
right.
There have definitely been things that he's made that I don't like, and there's been things that I've made that he doesn't like, and just kind of is what it is, and we kind of go through life with
Right.
But like, let me tell you, there's meals that I grew up on, and it's like, I'm not gonna not eat these because you don't like them.
Right.
Sorry. My kids are gonna eat tater tot casserole.
Right.
Till the day I die.
Exactly. Well, if I eliminated everything that Dan doesn't like, I mean, that guy hates all the good stuff. He hates black and green olives, sour cream, mushroom. I mean, just
sour cream. Wow.
Yeah.
That's rough.
That's what I always tell him. One day I'm going to sue eHarmony. So I feel like they misrepresented you. So, I mean, we definitely don't cut stuff out. And he has gotten better with since we've had Joe, where he'll actually try stuff. Like the mushrooms, he will tediously pick out mushrooms if it does get thrown into the dish. But otherwise, he tries to eat.
Yeah. I know somebody the other day who said that they were eating spaghetti and the person who made the spaghetti put peas in the spaghetti sauce.
That's not spaghetti.
And I was like, what? I was like,
it's
okay, like, I feel like that is like, I'm not eating it.
Right.
Totally okay.
I feel like they tried to cross tuna casserole with spaghetti.
Oh, do you know how, oh my gosh, tuna casserole, man. My mom used to make that for potlucks all the time when I was little. And I feel like it was really just mayo casserole or Miracle Whip casserole with like a little bit of tuna. I'm just like, you never could taste the tuna. It just tasted like Miracle Whip, which, by the way, I hate Miracle Whip. And I feel like you're either there are Miracle Whip people and there are mayo people.
Yes.
And there is no mixing. There's no matching. And I don't like tuna casserole because, just so you know, or I don't like tuna salad because, just so you know, it tastes like Miracle Whip.
Right.
Like, no.
Nope. I agree. Another source of contention in my marriage.
The Miracle Whip versus mayo. Mike's a Miracle Whip. I'm a mayo.
I'm mayo as well.
Yep. So, all right. So let's go into our recommendations. Michelle, if you want to do yours first.
Yeah, I am going to recommend a kit that I bought for Joe.
Okay.
It's from a company called Learning Unbound.
Okay.
And so this kit, now I'm going to be honest, I've only ordered one at this point, but I can see myself ordering like the monthly subscription box from it
Okay.
because it was so cool. I got the February one. We're actually still working on some of the stuff in it, but I was so impressed with like the quality of what they put together in the subscription box. Like there was a book with it. There was the stuff to make the fake snow for a sensory bin. There was all the stuff to make slime, which we did and was not as terrible as I thought it would be. And it came with like the little plastic animals because it was about the forest and the animals that live in the forest and live on the snow or below the snow. And but what really impressed me was like the packet of instructions that came with it. Like they have lessons.
This is her type A personality analysis of this toy
Like
subscription box.
they had like the lessons out by day and like what you should do for each of them, which we've not done all of them because it's for like 4 to 9-year-olds. So some of like the stuff that they have is for older kids, but I was actually very impressed with some of the stuff that Joe did do. Like he drew a bear on one of them and I'm like,
you can draw a bear.
wow. Now I know what you can do. Yeah. And so we don't do everything in that. I can see maybe like filing some of that stuff away later for our homeschooling years type of stuff. But I was just so impressed with how thorough it was. Like it would be basically an open and go type thing. I wouldn't have to like prep a lot of stuff. It's all right there for me. And so, I mean, if you buy just one box, it's $40. But like if you subscribe for like the 3 months or the 6 months, you get discounts on it. But I very easily see me subscribing to that here in the near future.
Huh.
So
that's fun.
What's your recommendation?
Funnily enough, my recommendation is a subscription box. That's kind of funny. So this is a subscription box that we've actually been doing for like 3 years. And it's Mike's subscription box actually.
Okay.
So what it is I always feel like I've talked about these before, but I never really know.
I know I had to go back and listen to episodes. Like, did I recommend this?
Yeah. So, this is a box from Universal Yums.
Okay.
That's the company.
All right. I've heard of them.
So what it is every month you get 6 snacks from a country. And then you also get a pamphlet of like, you know, trivia. And then you get like some fun facts or whatever. And it's become like a thing in our house that Mike's really into like different cultures and ethnicities and whatever. Like he's all about that stuff. So I got this for him for Christmas like years ago because I was like, he'll really like this, like having different snacks from different. He's a snack eater to begin with. I swear he keeps Little Debbie afloat all on his own. But so he started doing it a couple years back just by himself, and then him and John started doing it, and now he's been sharing with him, John and Malcolm and whatever, and you know it's going to progress. But it's really fun because it becomes a thing in our house when the Yum box comes.
Yeah.
That, like they all get to open it and then they get to tell where it's from. And, you know, John will bring stuff over to me. He's like, here, try this. I'm like, what country is it from? And he'll tell me what country it's from. And it's just, I think it's good to expose your kids to different cultures and different things and whatever, whether it's an academic format, a fun format, whatever. I think that we buy this subscription and it's like, it's between $150 and $200 a year, which to me is like, it's not that. Whatever. If you're like sitting down and you're like, I'm spending $25 for some chips and a candy bar, like, okay, fine, it's not really worth it. But like, it's an experience. Like, you know, they'll try one snack at a time and all of them will try like a bag of chips or whatever. And, you know, they'll give like, oh, it tastes really good. Oh, it tastes like those ones that we had from Italy. or it tastes like the ones that we had from Canada, or you know what I mean?
It's teaching on such a broad level.
And it's so fun.
Yeah.
And you know, like he'll have candy and they'll taste things that are just disgusting. Like they had shrimp. It was like shrimp puffs. It just smelled gross. So like it becomes this thing where like John sticks to my face to try and get me to smell it, and I'm just like, it smells disgusting. I'm not eating it. No. So it's a really fun thing. So if you have the disposable income, and there's lots of different ones that you can get. This was just the one that showed up on my Facebook one day, and I bought it because it was like, oh, this is an ad. Oh, this would be a really cool Christmas present. And, you know, we've just continued it. And, you know, it's just become, we renew it every Christmas. And it's just what we've done. And I would just really recommend it. Because honestly, if you have kids who, I would say 4 or 5 years old, for them to start learning about different cultures and different foods and different tastes, it's really fun. So that would be my recommendation, which is Universal Yums. So, yeah.
That's pretty exciting because, like I said, that's the best kind of learning to me is passive learning.
Right? Exactly.
I mean, and you include food, you're always going to get me anyway. So I don't know why I don't weigh 600 pounds, but no, I think because who's willing to sit there and listen to you read facts while you're shoving food in your mouth? Right. I mean, and kids are like sponges. They remember that stuff. I'm like, can you not repeat everything I say, please? But so no, I think that's amazing. It's ironic because that showed up as an ad for me in my Facebook, my Instagram stories.
Oh, really?
Just the other day, and
That's
I actually
funny.
clicked on it to look at it, and I was like, oh, that would be so fun, because I had listened to a podcast about a lady that does tea time, and that's a big thing with the homeschoolers right now is tea time, and you read poetry and stuff. But she was talking about using tea from all the different cultures, and they talk about the cultures during that, and I thought that I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And so when I saw that, I was like, man, we could do those snacks at the same time. So but I thought that was pretty cool. So it's interesting that you mentioned that you guys do that.
Yeah, and let me read you like a little blurb to give you a little context. So what's in the snack boxes? It depends on where we're going. It also depends on how much you spend. They have snack boxes that are like 6 snacks or snack boxes that are 36. We do the cheapest one.
Right.
Just because it's like,
you're just trying it, right? You're not eating it.
We're not trying to fund our snacks for the whole month. If we're featuring a chocolate-loving country like Belgium, you'll find creamy hazelnut truffles and chocolate-colored waffles in your box. However, a box from Thailand might be filled with zesty fried seaweed and salty pineapple candy.
Okay.
No matter the country, you'll always find a variety of sweet and savory snacks with unique flavors and spices. So they don't really have parameters of like what they'll send. Like they don't only send like kid-friendly things.
Right.
Which I like because it's just, I want John to try seaweed. I mean,
right.
And he thinks it's disgusting, but like, that's fine.
But just try it.
Just try it.
Right.
So it's definitely a fun thing. And Mike is really good about like, they'll make it last the whole month. Like
right.
If they have a really good day, he'll be like, we can have a treat from our Yum box.
Oh, that's awesome too.
So it's not like it's just like they sit down one time and they eat all the snacks.
It's an exciting, fun time spread out throughout the whole month.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for listening to us, and I hope that you got some good information today about,
or at least understand our struggle.
What to make your kids turn on her.
Yeah.
But if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube at Messy Bun Mamas Podcast. And we are on Twitter at bun_podcast. Mm-hmm. We have an email address.
messybunmamaspodcast@gmail.com.
Please don't just spam us with junk. Yeah.
And then we also have our website, which is www.messybunmamaspodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
Have a great week.
I am Messy Palm Heads.
This is Messy Fun Mama's podcast.
This is Misty Poop.
Messy buns, you silly.